You know, it's always hard to tell day one if somebody's just night and day's change, but I know they did a great job with Zach this whole winter, and I know the team in general got a lot stronger, so hopefully as we get through spring that really translates.
With Mo Berry back another year in your system, I mean, what strides can he make in this next year with you guys?
I think all guys in year 2 in the system generally make a pretty big jump. You know, and that's with most offensive or defensive systems. Year 1 to year 2 usually is a big difference, and we're counting on that too. We're counting on guys to know it that much better. You know, it's second level learning now. It's not introductory learning. So hopefully everybody can make a big jump in defense.
How valuable is it having a guy like Mo with that much experience, considering all the rest of the inexperience in your room?
I think it's all. I mean, you always want guys that play a lot of football, and that's definitely going to help. You know, but at the same time, you know, guys. Even guys that didn't play last year that are maybe redshirt guys last year, it's still their second year in the system too, even though they didn't get the live, you know, reps in a game. They still have to make a considerable jump as well. So I think everybody just, you know, that year 1 to year 2 hurdle has got to be a big one. Everybody's got to get that much better in all aspects of our program.
When it comes to newcomers like, you know, Nick Henrich, I mean, how much does it help that he's here early on?
It's really big, actually. You know, I used to kind of maybe put down the mid-year enrollees, and now I think it's such a benefit. And I think everything's moved up in general. The fat guys can get here early, and you get to not only learn the system and go through spring ball, but you get acclimated to college life too. That makes a big difference. So I think it definitely helps out a lot.
For a guy like Nick, do you think for him to see playing time early, is it more physical or mental that he's going to have to get better at in order to see early playing time?
Both. You know, it's such a big jump from high school. So physically, you know, all those guys that we recruit, they have the tools to do it, but it's also, you know, about getting stronger, about being able to play against better players consistently. And so that's the mental side and the physical side get challenged when you get to this level. So all aspects got to be on point to play early.
How have strength and conditioning methods changed since you were here?
I think the biggest thing is probably the sports science and the recovery part of it. I think there's a lot more research that's known now. You know, I think guys have always worked hard, but now, you know, they've learned how to work smarter. The nutrition's a lot more in depth than it used to be. I know we always have had we were always kind of cutting edge nutritionally, but now I think guys have. It's not just, well, that's nutrition, whatever. It's a big deal. So I think it's all the aspects that go around it, not just lifting heavy weight. You know. So
what does it look like? What are they doing that you weren't doing, or vice versa?
You know, I think the mandatory recovery stuff. You know, whether it's cold tub, whether it's foam rolling. You know, wearing the GPS trackers, tracking your you know, your outputs, measuring velocities in your lifts, that sort of thing. Just the data that they have around it. You know, everybody can get that much more of, I guess, a customized program that goes around with it. You know, and I think that started coming around a little bit, probably when I was 2 or 3 years into the NFL. But now
you were doing it in the NFL.
Well, I was. I would say the science started. You know, players were aware of that then. I think beforehand, and maybe I was just naive. Beforehand, you kind of just showed up and they told you what to lift and you did it. I think more recently, players are aware of recovery, nutrition. You know, not overdoing it all the time. You know, when you go hard, you got to go hard, but you also got to know how to recover. So there's just a lot more information out there.
Where have you seen evidence that it worked, that the science works?
Where have I?
Yeah, I mean,
because I did it.
Well,
you're talking about the sports science in general. Like, I mean, I did it. Or are you saying like
I'm asking
with
you to be
certain
specific.
players?
I'm asking you to be specific. Like, where have you seen that? You know, where's the evidence that you see that 20 years ago we weren't doing this, now they're doing this, and it works?
I guess. Are you saying as far as injuries? Or are you saying as far as like data evidence?
I'm
know.
Speaking more of like strength and conditioning stuff.
I guess my biggest thing is I went through it, and when the performance, when the nutrition, when the recovery, the output, the slow it down, you got to recover to get maximum gains out of it. I saw it work for me. That's how I know it the best.
In the NFL.
I would say partly NFL, but I mean the scouting combine. I saw it firsthand there. I remember specifically thinking I wasn't working hard enough, and I've never been stronger or faster because they had it monitored exactly how much I needed to do here and how much I needed to recover, and you felt jumpy. So
it was an eye opener.
It was because it's not. I think sometimes you're programmed to think the more I can do, the better, and that's not always the case. You have to be able to work extremely hard when you're supposed to work extremely hard, but then you also got to be able to recover at the same time too.
How much more comfortable do you feel on the road recruiting this year? Being a full-time assistant now, and just how much more comfortable do you feel in a recruiting role than maybe you felt at UCF?
I mean, it's probably like players going from year one to year two. You definitely, the more you do something, the better you get. So yeah, going out on the road and meeting new coaches, being around new high school programs, getting to be in the living rooms with recruits. I think you definitely get more comfortable at it the more you do it. So, and then you also get a little bit more comfortable in how you want to evaluate players, what you're looking for, who you feel like you can target and actually get versus who's just a good player that you really got no chance for, that sort of thing. So you get better at that as you go, the more time you spend at it.
As a lead guy on in-state recruiting, what was the feeling like when you guys went 5 for 5 on all the guys you offered?
Yeah, it feels good. I hope I can do that again. No, it is. I guess at times you feel like it's the easiest job being the in-state recruiter, but at times it's the hard job because you don't want to ever lose a guy from the state. That's my biggest thing is, if you have a guy that we feel is good enough to play in Nebraska, you don't ever want to lose him to a competitor. So, the guys who are in state that are really good players, we want them to make sure they're playing for Nebraska.
When you see an offer, especially an early offer from an outside school on one of your in-state guys, your response to that is what?
Well, I think, how do I put this? When I was coming up, I think maybe other teams were scared off by recruiting in-state players. I think, like me, I think my decision took 25 seconds to make, and I think a lot of kids were like that. I think the goal for me is hopefully we get it back to the point where, when we offer a kid in Nebraska, we're just expecting to commit. And right now, we got to prove it, and I think there's really good players in the state, and I think the guys who get a lot of offers from the state, it's deserved too. I think sometimes there's other cities where maybe guys are over-recruited. I don't think Nebraska is an over-recruited state by any means, but I think now other schools aren't necessarily afraid to come into Nebraska and offer really good players.
Right. Omaha has always been a little bit different than everywhere else because it's just it's right on the border. It's obviously more urban. It's a bit different there than Norfolk or even Lincoln. What's been the challenge for you in sort of rebranding Nebraska in the city of Omaha, where frankly Nebraska struggled for?
I think the biggest thing is it just. Number one, a lot of times kids from Omaha aren't necessarily lifers. A lot of them have moved in or parents have moved in. So, sometimes, a kid from Omaha, their favorite team growing up isn't Nebraska. And that's a little bit different. I think in, whatever it was, the 70s, 80s, 90s, most kids from Nebraska, that was their favorite team, and that's what they grew up doing. And that's not always the case now. So, I think first and foremost it starts on the field. If you put a product out there that people like and relate to, then it becomes easier to recruit. And that's not just in Nebraska, that's in all the states too. So it goes hand in hand. I think recruiting becomes a lot easier when you play well, but that's always the first step. If the product's good on the field, recruiting, gets a little bit better.
Looking back on 0-6, was it tough to sell what you guys were doing?
Well, we believed in it, but you did feel like you had to sell it, and that's what's no fun. You always wanted to be, well, here's the proof, and we were kind of relying on proof that we proved the year before. We went 13-0. We saw the program work how it's supposed to work, and nobody wanted to be 0-6. And it's a combination of not quite getting it right, failures here and there, but 0-6 is 0-6, and there's no doubt it's hard to sell 0-6. But
did you lose kids because of 0-6?
You never know for sure, but probably. At the same time, I think we may have got some kids back when we finished the season strong as well. I think there's definitely probably a point to be made where if we would have not finished the season strong, we may not have gotten a couple of the kids we got late. So, like I said, I think the product on the field usually speaks for itself, and it's not always wins and losses. Players see what's going on, and they see, they want to play for a certain, there's a certain style on the field they want to see and they want to play for.